the Himalayan possum.
Himalayan pause.
Yeah, he was, after I got in the rearview mirror, him was a laying out. Maybe that'll turn out to be a
What
pretty
was
good
it
game.
like
They
out
had,
We're at Georgia Tech, and then we've got Wake at home the week after that.
All right, I'll go ahead at this time and call our mid-month meeting for September to order. Welcome all of you that could be with us. It's been an interesting several days. Glad Larry made it here to be with us this morning. And we will go ahead and, I said, call this meeting to order and begin with the pledge, followed by the invocation led by Commissioner Prince. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us pray. Most gracious and loving God, we thank you for this day. Lord, we thank you for the opportunity to be here and to serve. Lord, we thank you for allowing us the privileges. And thank you, Lord, for keeping us safe through this stormy season. Lord, we just pray that there's no one in our county that was injured or harmed. We pray for the families of those that lost loved ones in this storm. We pray, Lord, for their peace and their understanding. Lord, guide the directions that we take in this meeting and guide the lives that we impact. These things we ask in your holy name. In Christ's sake, amen.
Amen.
All right, we'll go ahead and get started here. I think we may have a little, actually have a motion on the agenda that I'm missing something.
No, we don't have that on there, but we do need to do that, yeah.
And there's going to be an omission of our spotlight business, and that's the only change I'm aware of. You might.
That's all I'm aware of.
With that, I'd ask at this time a motion for the agenda.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Moving a second to approve the agenda with the omission. All in favor, make it known by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. 5-0. And we do have a set of minutes from our last meeting. At this time, if there's any questions, we'll entertain them. If not, we'll look for a motion for approval.
Make a motion to approve. Quick minutes that we're getting now, up to date.
Motion and a second on the minutes. Any further discussion? All in favor, make it known by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And yes, I echo that. Thank you very much, Drew. Okay, well, before we get started with our meeting, I just would like to thank everyone, thank all those, for all my fellow commissioners for your support, and those of you that could be here in body Saturday, and those that I spoke with on the phone, and all the community leaders that were here. We did have emergency called meeting to warn the people, make a declaration to warn the folks of the pending weather and all the weather reports that we had and things that went on. And I just want to thank all of our community, all of our emergency response folks. Daniel has been working pretty much around the clock. Really thank him for his service in his area, and then all of the emergency responders. And I also would like to extend a heartfelt thanks to all of our churches who responded. I know it was hard. It was a hard ask of me because I feel like, they answer to a higher power than we do, but I feel like we all answer to the same God, and leadership is established and put in place for a reason. And I really felt like that was the right thing to do, and I think we couldn't have actually made any better decisions than we did based on all the information we had. Safety of our community is first and foremost, and I thank all of our pastors for recognizing that and respecting the ask that we made of them, most of them, for considering not to hold church yesterday. So I thank everybody in the community, and we're still not out of the woods yet. It's a lot of damage, a lot of roadways and things. So everybody continue to be careful, but I just wanted to put that out there. Okay, at this time, we will go ahead to public agenda comments. Item A, if there's anyone here who would like to address this board for any agenda items, now would be the time to come and do so. Seeing no movement, we'll go ahead to item B, presentations to the board. And we have a couple of social services personnel with us this morning. Welcome, Miss Lisa and Miss Beth Mabe. We're going to get in our education in service here, we're going to continue on with Work First. Welcome.
Good morning. Thank you. I'm Beth Mabe. I do the Work First program at Social Services, and I'm just here to tell you just a little bit about how the program works. In 1996, the federal government enacted the Temporary Assistance for Needy Families, which we call TANF, program under the Personal Responsibility and Work Opportunities Act. In 1996, North Carolina implemented its TANF program under the name of Work First. It's actually TANF federal funds, but we call it Work First. The Work First program represents a significant departure from the traditional roles of public assistance for clients and programs. Work First establishes two significant concepts. The family has a larger responsibility in achieving a self-sufficiency, and services from a local agency are short-term and directed toward a quick return to the labor and work market. To receive Work First family assistance, a household must contain a child under the age of 18 or contain a child who will graduate high school prior to turning 19. Children must live with an adult relative who is within a certain degree of kinship, or with an adult caretaker who has legal custody or legal guardianship that is court-ordered. The relative or adult caretaker who has legal custody or legal guardianship must be responsible for providing care for the child on a day-to-day basis and for their ongoing decisions regarding the child. Work First benefit cases are the cases that contain an adult recipient who is subject to the Work First core activity requirements. Single-parent households with a child under the age of 6 are required to complete 20 hours per week. A single-parent household with a child age 6 and above is required to complete 30 hours per week, and a two-parent household is required to complete 55 hours per week. All adult recipients are subject to a federal 60-month lifetime limit on the receipt of cash assistance under the TANF funds. Work First benefit core activities may include employment, job search, on-the-job training, work experience, community service, and vocational education. Benefit diversion is a cash payment alternative to the traditional Work First family assistance. Work First offers some families benefit diversion in lieu of the Work First family assistance. It's an optional package of services that may include a one-time payment of up to 3 months of Work First benefits. These recipients are not subject to the work requirements. Child-only cases. Child-only cases are the cases in which the children are the only ones receiving the actual benefits. They can be children of a parent who receives SSI, children of an undocumented alien, children living with grandparents or other relatives, and children living with persons who have legal custody of the children. And these cases are not subject to the core activities. Alleghany County's Work First caseload as of September 1, 2018, we have one Work First benefits case. We have one benefit diversion case and 22 child-only cases. Is there any questions?
Thanks for that information. I do have a couple of questions. This is a federal mandated service that we provide locally. No local funds are going into this. The 60-month lifetime limit, was that for families or for individuals that's actually receiving it?
It would be for the family. Yeah. And it also, all the states. So if we have someone that moves here from California, we get in touch with California to see how many benefits that they've received and how many months, and then we add them to their clock, because you can find that sometimes people will move from state to state thinking that that little time clock won't follow them, but it does.
Thank you for that information. I'll open it up. Anybody else may have a few questions. Bobby?
A slide back, 4 or 5 slides back, you had, it's only good for a 60-month period, or is that a lifetime? Is this a federal program or state? Federal. So if they receive 55 months in North Carolina and move to Virginia, they only have 5 more months left.
That's correct.
And there's a way to track,
Yes.
of tracking all of that.
Yes. Yes. Now, the 60-month time clock does not, these time clocks do not apply to the child-only cases, where you have a grandparent or someone who has legal custody of a child. Then that child can receive till they turn 18, or if they graduate high school prior to turning 19.
And that's the bulk of our caseload. We
Yeah.
have about 22 of those.
Yep.
Yes, you said that a child of an undocumented alien.
Have to be a
So-
U.S. citizen to receive.
That was going to be my question, but they must be a
Yeah.
citizen.
The
Good.
child, in cases like that, the child is the only one that receives.
Good, you just helped my blood pressure.
Anyone else? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for everything you do. Next, we have another very familiar face, Miss Amy Lucas from Extension. Good morning, welcome.
Good morning. Thank you all for having me this morning. I just wanted to come touch base with you all. We received some notification early September, that there were some legislative changes coming down the pipeline, which was going to affect our county operations support staff position, which used to be Kathy and is now Monica Dolinger. So the changes just really weren't feasible for what we could do. So at that point, I came and met with Karen and with April in HR to try to work out a solution to this. So what we are going to have to do, or what I think is the best arrangement for what we can do, right now her salary is being sent into NC State. And in order to make it feasible for us, we simply need to take her to a county no pay, which means she's just paid through the county rather than sending money to the state and then she receives a state paycheck. Couple of changes that go along with it. Her salary will actually remain the same. There will be no changes in salary, so no additional costs as far as county is concerned. The other good thing is, though, that we are going to be able to offer her retirement now, which she does not currently have. So good changes come with it. We were able to come to a solution, though, but just weren't able to feasibly meet the requirements of what legislation was passing forth.
Questions from anybody?
Need no action from us, you're just notified.
It's part of your consent agenda, or we had to add that position to the part-time payroll. So that's part of your consent agenda, but there's no additional county funds required. It's just a reclassification.
It's an hourly rate of $12, I think is what I
Correct.
remember seeing in there.
That's correct.
Okay. Anything else?
Amy, appreciate what you do. Her leadership is outstanding. So many people don't understand what's involved in that.
Thank you.
But thank you.
Thank you all for your help.
Thank you.
All right, next on the agenda is, under general business, item C is topic that we have been discussing back and forth. Finally, I think, reached a consensus to go ahead and bring to the board hopefully for some potential action regarding the property lines behind the high school, regarding the tennis courts and some ball fields up there. And in our packet, and of course on the screen, we see the craziness of how that is drawn up there. And
This is the parcel that's in question,
Yeah.
which also contains the swimming pool, so.
Well, I think there's a second one in question, and that's the upper left-hand corner. That's county property. And then the first one he pointed out with the lion's share of the tennis courts is county property. And of course, we're all aware of the student that was involved in an accident at the tennis courts, and that kind of progressed through possible action from the school, or as far as the needs of that student, and back and forth, and they ended up determining that where it happened was county property, not school property. So there's a really a big challenge there as far as who's in the driver's seat and how anything like that needs to be handled. And my recommendation would be, and I talked with Superintendent Mr. Beasley, and they were in agreement with it, and he talked individually with some of his board members that if we could fix that property line and go ahead and deed it to the school, and I would add that we do the upper left corner as well to get that property to them. And I talked with Jim Brown regarding this, and then of course we had individual discussions with everybody here, and we all know kind of the history of the challenges of the tennis courts obviously need some work, but nobody's clearly in the driver's seat. Well, we own, 3.5 or something, 3.25, or 4.25. But anyway, I think the right thing to do to resolve all of this would be to redraw that property line, go ahead and deed it to the school. And I tried to give the pool away, but he wouldn't take it.
Your upper left-hand corner, that's Davis Field?
Right.
Okay. And I notice the line goes right over the second baseman there.
And if we just took that, there'll need to be some description done on this other property to divide it up, but that one up there, I think we can leave it as it's described and just change ownership of that. That's my opinion, but it's certainly not a professional one.
So you're proposing basically redrawing the line?
Putting a line right
Right
there,
there.
carving out the tennis courts, and then including that over to the ball fields.
How much are they going to reimburse us?
Well, that was going to be a question. We'll need a survey to do that, probably be $300 or $400, depending on how easy it is to find the current markers. And then, do we want to go ahead and pay for it? Do we want to make the school pay for it?
Well,
That would be the other question, so.
You know, if we'll sell it to them for $1.5 million, they're going to ask us to increase their budget $1.5 million.
Two.
Two, right. So, I'd say let the county pay for it.
Well, and the thing is, at the end of the day, the county's going to really own it. I mean, we own the school property. It's just more of a legality here that we're going through, so that if there's any challenges or issues or anything with students getting hurt, or because they have insurance, and of course we have insurance, but then it's a school function on county property, and it becomes really muddy as to how we get through and who's responsible for what, and this would clear all of that up. Plus, the other thing is, we all know that there's some improvements that need to be made at the tennis courts, and that was a conversation I had with Chad as well. You know, this would allow them to be clearly in the driver's seat of making the proposal or whatever to his board as far as how they want to address that. And I would expect that it's going to be on their capital improvement list when they come back to us, along with everything else that's on there. So, but that's a different discussion for down the road, and that's a bucket of money that we approve, and then they're in charge of distributing at whatever they see the level of importance is there. So, but at least I think this will set us on a path to getting a couple of issues resolved that have, I think, lingered too long. Bobby?
A couple of questions. That, this part right here belongs to the county.
Yeah.
This part belongs to the county. All of this in here belongs to the school system. And it goes all the way down through there. Now, are we looking at giving deeding over this part and this part to the school board? Or are they just interested in coming up and around, or coming this way and taking in the tennis courts?
I think what would make the most sense would just be to go along that bank from the road between the tennis courts and the swimming pool, and give them the tennis courts.
But we're still going to be responsible for the swimming pool. They don't want that.
I tried to give it away, but they wouldn't take it.
Are we going to give this part of Davis Field, or while we're doing this, why don't we just deed the,
Yeah, I think that's, I mean, that's where I am. I don't know where everybody else is. Everybody can speak for themselves, but
so we'll have a small area in here that'll still belong to the county?
right.
Just so I'm sure, the school people have indicated that they would do all the maintenance on Davis Field as well? Is
Right.
that what you're saying?
Right.
And the mowing and the,
Yeah, but let me qualify that when I say yes. In talking with Jim Brown, we have kind of an unspoken agreement between us and the school. Whenever, in the summertime, when the county's using those fields, we take care of the maintenance and upkeep and those needs. And then during the school, they take care of it. And in this conversation, I think he's going to go ahead and try to get that agreement on paper so that there's, if there's personnel changes or whatever going forward, everybody understands that. So that essentially it will be handled the same going forward when we're using it, they're using it in the summertime as far as Jim's folks. Then we'll take care of maintenance and upkeep for our needs, and then they'll take care of them for their needs.
So we'll have to have a survey someplace in here. Do we still want all of this? Or do we just want something like that?
Well, I think that, I mean, I don't see the value in carving out a little sliver. I don't know what they could do with that. It'd be cheapest to just draw one line between the two. But it's a board question and a board decision, so whatever the board decides there.
Question mark.
Larry?
One of the things that's been talked about at the pool is the splash pad. Do we have land adequate for that around the pool area?
Yeah, the splash pad would be where the old kiddie pool is now. That would be where so it wouldn't change the footprint of the pool any.
I think we need that area to the right for parking possibly down the road, so. I don't know what the slope is, but I wouldn't give away all of that. I'd draw it straight line through between the tennis court and the swimming pool.
And is that the consensus of everybody?
Yes.
yes.
It is mine.
It's a straight line between the two.
Yes.
So where, do we want to go about halfway between? Do we want to come down to just beyond the parking lot and give them the bank, or what's the thought there?
I would split this area right here, just
Pretty
bring
much in
it
half.
straight. Yeah, pretty well. That gives a little bit of
Okay.
expansion.
Because I figure if they need to redo something up there, that would give them several feet beyond the fence to do anything that they needed to.
Now, will it be an unspoken agreement, or will we have a right-of-way to let people park here and still get to the girls' softball field? A easement or just an unspoken agreement?
What he was talking about was doing a written agreement as to our understandings of everybody's usage of Davis Field, the parking lot, the tennis courts, and the maintenance that cover those areas.
We've been operating without one, but
Put it in
whenever
writing.
you change people, some people don't know what's happened in the past, and
Corporate knowledge goes.
on both sides. This way, everybody would know what is expected, and
Well, I think if it's explained, just like in any deed, exactly who's got what, and if there's an easement, 50 years from now, there'd be no questions about it.
I don't know that it would require an easement. It would just be an
Agreement.
MOU agreement or something between us and them, the school, as far as who could use what when
I mean,
and how.
basically, we're letting the school park on the parking lot to walk to the softball field. So, I mean, we're not the ones that, if there was an easement, we wouldn't be the ones that needed it. Really, it'd be the school.
Yeah.
Because we're basically allowing the softball fans to park on the county property and go to the game. So, you know, I don't think an easement is necessary, but I would like to see if the board makes a motion to deed this property, I would like to make it subject to, you know, at least an MOU on what the agreement's going to be with the school. Because I don't want to sound like I don't know what the right word is, but negotiation's all about leverage. If we give away all this property, then we don't have the leverage anymore to get the agreement done once the deed is signed. So I say, let's make it subject to, you know, an MOU on the use of the facilities. So that would be my recommendation.
Any other comments? If not, I would entertain a motion to split those properties just about halfway between the building, the swimming pool and the tennis courts, and deed the tennis courts and the upper ball field to the school.
It'd solve a lot of problems if it takes a swimming pool.
I tried.
I'd make that motion.
So we have a motion.
Subject to a memorandum of
And a
understanding.
second, we would want to add what Mike had just said about the memorandum of understanding or MOU for use. Is that okay with you, Tom?
Yes.
Okay. And-
That's second Tom's motion.
All right, all in favor, make it known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. 5-0. Thank y'all. All right, next is our consent agenda, and Miss Rita is here. If anyone has any questions on the tax items. Bobby?
One question.
Rita,
on
would you mind
page-
coming up? What page is
Well,
that?
just wait, okay.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Page 77.
Is this saying the refunds?
Yeah,
No,
Oh, this is the payment agreement.
payment
report.
agreements.
Okay.
the extreme right, or 77 on our agenda, payment agreement report.
Okay, yes, sir.
On the extreme right-hand side, it says months to pay.
That's the amount of months, this is in our new software. That's the amount of months, if I'm understanding correctly, that it would take to pay based on the minimum payment.
It's the current due column divided by the promised monthly payment column. It's how many months
Yep.
behind they are, basically, is what that number is, how many months behind they are.
That's how many months behind they
Yes.
are?
Yes.
Okay, that's not how many months they have to pay their bill.
No, that's basically how many months are currently due. So
Now-
the first one here is $745. He owes $60 a month, so he's 13, it's rounded to 13 months that's due currently. 13 times 60, 780, so he's 13 months due, basically.
In the past, we've come up, I think, with, I don't know if it deals with this issue, but people that have owed their money in arrears for so long, after 10 years or something, we just sort of forget about it, or?
Not on real estate, no. Real estate is never forgiven or released.
Personal property.
Okay,
Just personal property.
so these people will have to pay eventually, or their property will go up for sale.
Correct. They have the payment agreement. If the payment agreement is defaulted more than a couple of times, then they would either have to pay, well, the next step we would try would be wages or bank account attachment. And if we aren't successful with that, I send them one last letter saying this is our final attempt to collect. And if we don't hear anything, then it goes for foreclosure.
And they're being charged with the maximum amount of interest or?
Yes, yes, we have no leeway in the interest. It's 0.75% each month.
And if
I
they,
just,
if,
I didn't know if they had 50 months to make their payments.
No.
and if
And-
they sell the property, you are first in line to receive the back taxes,
That's
correct?
correct. That's part of our tax certification program, yes.
That's a number of months they're behind. Why aren't they already considered delinquent? And
They are
something-
considered-
And action taken.
Yeah, they are considered delinquent, and,
I'm looking at a couple of 49 and a couple of 50.
Would it be fair to say, or accurate to say, that some of these, there's some action, further action being taken on some of these?
we may have tried, like if we do, if they're not extremely delinquent, and I mean like 1-2 years, and we do a wage attachment or a bank account attachment, and they come in and will pay 50% of what's due and we'll do the rest on a payment agreement. So you're going to have different scenarios in here. You're going to have people who voluntarily came in and asked for a payment agreement. There's going to be people that we have taken action on, but we have reverted back to part of it paid, part of it, the remainder on a payment agreement. And then you've got people in here who have serious medical issues, and they're paying all that they can, so.
That was one thing that, we see a number on a paper. We don't really know all the circumstances that go with it, and we certainly want to work with anywhere, and I know you all do too,
Absolutely.
anywhere that there are extenuating circumstances, and we appreciate the willingness there, but we just trying to be fair and gather some
Right.
information on what we're seeing. I'm
Yeah,
sorry,
repeat it.
Larry, did I cut you
Oh,
off?
excuse me.
Do you have any more?
Puzzled by the number of months that some of them are behind, and they're pretty significant dollars.
Yeah.
If they miss 2 payments, then their payment agreement is defaulted, and we move forward with other action if they've missed 2 months of payments.
Although they're so 50 months behind, they may be making some payment. Is that right?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
See, the one on there that's 49 months behind, they did make a payment August the 14th, so they came in and paid something, That's all we ask from of course, we want you to pay your whole bill the day it's due. That'd be the ideal situation. But if you are behind, come in and pay something. Show some good faith. We will continue to work with you. If you don't return calls, don't return letters, don't make any payment, we're going to wind up on the courthouse steps very soon. If you're sending us some money, being in contact with Rita and her staff, we're going to work with you every way that we can. We don't want to sell your property. That's a last resort.
Right.
But we will sell your property. We're selling some later on this month, so.
The way this payment agreement report and everything you do, you're comfortable with the way it's written and how it's gone up to this point?
I
Is
am-
that fair
I
to
am.
say?
Right now, we try to get it, set the payment agreement up on 9 to 12 months. And then Mike and I had discussion previously, so we have a new payment agreement, 6, 9, or 12 months, and then they have to submit to us a letter as to the need for the payment agreement.
Huh.
So whereas in the past, we may have had people who wanted a payment agreement just to delay payment for 6 months or so, but we do not allow that anymore. There must be a need for the payment agreement.
The grand total is roughly almost $73,000 that people are in the rears.
Yes.
And what's the maximum amount of time that you will give them to pay?
We have some of our older agreements that, we started several years ago, we would allow them up to 18 months, but now we try to do 12 months as the maximum unless there are pretty severe extenuating circumstances. And we do have, several of those in the county. And so they try to make their minimum payment. If they can't make their minimum payment, they know they need to call Missy or I-1, explain what's going on so that we can put a note in the file.
And that's basically your call when there's an extreme case.
We
Is
usually
that-
look at medical issues, employment issues, divorce issues, things like that.
You have established
Yes, we
guidelines
do.
that you go by.
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Clear that up for everybody? Okay. Anything else on the consent agenda?
That was the only thing I had on the consent.
Okay. Anyone else? All right, hearing no other concerns, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
I would request that we stipulate that we follow the recommendations of the appraiser on the request for release of solid waste fees.
Yeah, I think there was one denied.
Recommended denial.
Yeah, right, yeah, yeah. So approval of the consent agenda with the recommendations of the releases from the tax administrator.
I'll second that.
Moving a second. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor, make it known by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rita.
Thank you.
Right, at this time, we are to item E, public comments. Anyone here would like to address this board on any matters of the county? Now would be the time to come and do so. Seeing no movement, we'll go ahead to county manager comments. Mike, you have the floor.
First thing in your packet there is just a letter we got from the Department of Health and Human Services. Baptist is working on their recertification as a trauma center, and they just were required to inform us, and we may be asked, we do use them, we do take folks there that have trauma, so we may be asked to, audit questions, things like that. So just public information there. They are working on their renewal now. It's an interesting, hospital certification is an interesting process. My wife managed a medical clinic for a couple of years ago, went through the certification process once, and it's interesting, a lot of questions. Similar to the audit, we had the county auditors here last week. It's similar to that. They work through your written policies and procedures. You have to have written policies and procedures that match up with what they want. Then you have to prove that you follow those written policies and procedures. A lot of time, that's the hard part, showing that you actually do it. So they are working on that. No action required from the county. That's just public information there. Next up's the building permit report. Again, just public information. We continue to have permits adding about $2 million to our tax base, hopefully, when all these reports are done, so every little bit helps. That would be $9,500 roughly in additional property tax next year, so every little bit helps.
On those permits, I can't recall, somebody had asked me and I couldn't remember it. Did the assisted living facility, have they?
They have not applied yet.
Okay.
No, we're expecting that any day. I mean, pre-storm issues, we were expecting it any day now, and we still are.
Right.
And we expect
Okay.
it, any day.
I knew it was closed, so I
But
couldn't
they have
remember
not,
if it had happened or not.
they've called and asked questions a few times and worked with Travis and Tony on the phone, but they have not applied yet. So that'll be $18,000 building permit fee there. So you'll notice it when, on the whatever monthly report that's on, it'll stand out like a sore thumb. Transfer station update, again, we're continuing to move earth over there. The concrete was scheduled to be poured this week for the pad, although really, I was over there this morning, I was expecting a swimming pool in our new hole, and there was just an inch or two of water, so I don't see any reason they can't pour concrete later on in the week. You can pour concrete in water, underwater, whatever, and the scales will follow a week or two after that, so we're still close on that. So we appreciate everybody's patience. At least the rain washed all the dirt and debris off the new asphalt, so that's good. So it's nice and clean now. So we appreciate everybody's patience. It's going to be great on the other side there. Upcoming events, want to remind everybody to click on the Authentically Alleghany website, check the events calendar. We do have the rodeo coming up at the fairgrounds on the weekend of October 12th and 13th, horse show and rodeo. The following weekend, the 19th and 20th, is the circus. I feel like every day is a circus in Alleghany County sometimes, but actually the real circus will be here on the 19th and 20th. Same group that came in last fall. They had a great experience, booked their weekend last year, so that they had a good experience. They do a lot of their own marketing, so two great events for the family. If you haven't been to the rodeo, it's a terrific family event. Mid-October, be great weather, be like 55 degrees. Bring your sweatshirt and come to the rodeo. One of the events is like the regional high school rodeo. I don't know how many high schools around here have a rodeo team, but there are some high school students competing in some of the events as actual state competition, and then the pros will be competing later on in that night. So 2 great events coming up at the fairgrounds. I think that'll be our last 2 major events for the season. Just a reminder, go to Authentically Alleghany and click on that events calendar. And of course, it has not just fairgrounds events, but everything going on in the county, or you can get there through the app as well. So
While you're on that subject, I would add, they did order some T-shirts in preparation for the Heritage Festival that was canceled, but they have an assortment of different T-shirts, Alleghany County T-shirts. We had some made back for the Merle Fest, but some of these new ones have some of the other pictures on them regarding agriculture. I think some of the fishing pictures on them. Picture's not the right word, but y'all know what I mean. So just wanted to put that out there. They're available. I assume the chamber probably has some, and I know they're at the college, at the desk at the college. They're available there as well. So.
Thursday evening at Horizon Bistro, Georgianne Eubanks is a well-known national regional chef, and she will be here plugging her new book and actually making a full menu and kind of walking you through it. It's a great event, limited to 60 people. I think it's like $50, I think, but you get a great meal and great lesson from a well-known national chef. She's been on the Food Network, so that's a great event. And again, we've got all kinds of other events here as well, lots of golf tournaments, live music, everything you'd ever want to see. So always check your app and your Authentically Alleghany website. And last several days, the storm has sort of pushed some other things down the priority list. So I don't have anything else to add at this time. So that's all I have.
The note of apps, I knew it was out there, but I hadn't downloaded it. My power went out yesterday, so I've downloaded the Blue Ridge Electric app. Of course, you don't have to have the app. You can do it online if you have access to online. Of course, I had it with my phone, but they're a power outage map. You can report your power outage right from your cell phone, so it's a pretty convenient tool. Hopefully, we won't need very much, but when you do, it's nice to have. And with that, brings us to commissioner comments. I'll start to the far left over here with Commissioner John Irwin.
Thank you. I'm pleased to announce that the Council on Aging has received a grant of $10,000 a year from Meal on Wheels, and this will run for 3 years. So good work there. During the recent storm, one of the things that became apparent very quickly, we called upon our volunteer fire departments once again, and they came through. They, particularly Glade Creek and I believe Piney Creek and Laurel Springs, they have been on the go totally. Now, we do have some problems. I know Glade Creek, I spoke with David Higgins this morning. They have 2 chainsaws that are kaput. They have gone through a lot of fuel, both diesel and gasoline. They have gone through chains, bars, just about everything. And I would not be surprised if Laurel Springs and Piney Creek is in the same situation. I know Laurel Springs has been at work all night. One of the things that has come up is communications. The communication system has not been turned over. David Higgins stated this morning that he had to rely on the 800 megahertz Viper system because he could not communicate in his firehouse. So we have a problem there. I thought that we would have that new system up. We need to look at it. And Madam Shoemake, I suggest you look at the contract. We may have some legal boundaries that we need to look at. This is the second weather event that this county has endured with inadequate communications. Now, I realize mobile communications has got their hands full with the flooding and the wind damage to the communications below the mountain, but certainly by January, 1 year after we were told that we would have the system, we may need to start looking at that. As you can tell, I am not impressed, and I am getting ready to come to the commissioners to take action. The recreation funds we need to start looking at, commonly referred to as the Beamer Fund, in my opinion. The major events are finished at the recreation up at the fairgrounds. We need to have any repairs that we're going to do, we need to see if we can get them done over the winter so that we'll be ready for the spring and hopefully start bringing in some tourist dollars into our area. The roof in the concession building does have to be replaced. It is damaging the interior, and the longer we put this thing off, the worse off we're going to be. Now, this is exacerbated by the Fairgrounds Committee. Fairgrounds Committee has not had a quorum and has been able to take no action for 3 months. I asked Mr. Brown to go to the county manager and explain the situation and to advise me when he had done so. He hasn't done that at this time, so I'm going to take some action. We may end up, right now, if someone asks me what my recommendation was, is to disband the committee, let the county take it over. Whenever you can't pay the bills because you haven't got a quorum, you got a problem. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is everything that I have after I thank the volunteer fire departments for being out there in the wind and the rain and placing their bodies online, helping those that needed help, taking the risk, and Lord knows they aren't paid enough. Thank you, sir.
Just echoing what Johnny said, thank the fire departments, police, sheriff, for all their dedication for action and being on standby, giving up their time to make sure we're safe and get through the roads. Also, I want to recognize that Tom Smith is now an elderly statesman. He turned the magic age last week. It will be a video event. He will be hitting from the gold tees from now on. So those that want to see something special, come out to New River. That's it.
Take about 6 strokes off your score there. Move some gold tees.
Yeah.
Thank you, Larry. Commissioner Bobby Orr.
Just a couple of quick things, obviously, to thank everybody that's done everything from the county level to the volunteers. You know, they've worked really hard. Fortunately, we weren't hurt like they were down on the coast, but we still have a lot of damage, a lot of stuff. It'll take us a while to get over. At some point, I'm curious how bad agriculture got hurt. Right now, it's the height of pumpkin harvest. People are cutting their corn for silage. A lot of people are still cutting their hay. I just want to be sure that we don't forget about the farmers and their needs. If there's any assistance with us declaring an emergency that may come from the state or the federal, we need to be sure that we look at that. The other thing is the transfer station, the second set of scales, are we pretty much on schedule? So in a few more weeks, they're going to start cutting pond tips for roping and reeds, and that's when they'll be using the scales to weigh stuff. So we just need to be sure that I know this is going to set us back some.
We're still right on schedule, so we're.
Yeah. But again, I want to thank everybody and thank Mark for taking the lead and keeping all of us informed as to what was going on.
Thank you.
That's it.
Commissioner Smith.
Eloquently stated on our emergency folks. I want to echo all those comments. It's a grateful county thanks those people. And that's all I have today. I'm not going to go into Medicare age.
Thank you all this morning for your time and a good meeting, efficient meeting. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
And I'd second that motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Thank y'all.